Star Wars, best place for below average Star Wars.
Hello there, and welcome to the Star Wars Show. And we are back with a special. We have not done these for a while. It is the return of our Purely BELTA specials. If you don't remember what these are, it's where we have an awesome guest from the world of Star Wars and Star Wars fandom, and they come and tell us about what subject in Star Wars lore, or in Star Wars fandom, or in the Star Wars galaxy, anything Star Wars basically, that they think is Purely BELTA. And what is Purely BELTA, you say? Purely BELTA is a slang term for up here in the northeast of England, particularly in Newcastle, where I am from. What it means is, if something's Purely BELTA, it's brilliant, it's awesome, it's the best thing ever. You could say, if I go to one of my favourite pizza shops up here in the northeast of England, if I go to Massimo's and I get my favourite pizza, which is the DJ special, because it is a sesame seed base, that is a Purely BELTA pizza. So that is the concept. And we've got a very, very special guest and a very special topic to kick off the return of the Purely BELTA series. And that is, of course, the awesome Cara DJ from Into a Larger World, which is, of course, it's a huge project now. We have the zine, the podcast, and the archive. Cara, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm from New Jersey, so I'm stuck on sesame seed based pizza, but but I'm very curious. But hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm absolutely awesome. So the DJ special is, so it's a
Yeah.
sesame seed base with a stuffed crust,
Stuffed
and then
with
it's a chicken tikka pizza with pepperoni.
what? Okay. All
It's
right.
fantastic with garlic sauce. Dip it in garlic sauce. You have to do that.
Okay. I'm not going to make a judgment because my future husband is from the UK. I'm familiar with the pizza differences. So I will not besmirch your favorite pizza. I think it sounds, honestly, I would try it. I would not try it.
It's funny. So I got a new job working in North Shields. So it's sort of, I was born in the South Shields, which is not from Newcastle, and then North Shields is the other side of the river. And
Mm.
like they have this thing called DJ Special there. And I hadn't tried it. Everybody was talking about it, and I was like, I can't be that good. But then when I finally had it, I was like, in for life.
Okay. Hey, I mean, it's always worth trying something. But anyway, I'm sorry for derailing us into pizza. Hello.
There's always time for pizza, as the Ninja Turtles would say. But yes, let's move on from pizza. Obviously, anybody who is familiar with yourself, Cora, knows probably what your Purely BELTA thing is in Star Wars. But do you just want to give us a rundown of what it could be?
Oh, yes. So for me, I'm going to butcher this a little bit, but the most purely Belta thing in Star Wars world is Star Wars Celebration. That is I don't even know what to call it. I guess it's my obsession. It's the thing that I love. And I was telling you before we started, I could unpromptedly talk about Celebration for like 3 days. So I love to talk about it. And it's just my favorite topic.
Star Wars Celebration certainly is brilliant. I've been to a couple. For those who don't know what Star Wars Celebration is, it's basically the official Star Wars fan convention, I suppose you could say.
Mhm.
I don't know if you've got a different way of talking about it. I suppose that's very basic.
No, that's what I would say too. Yeah, it's like the official Lucasfilm licensed sponsored event that is just all about Star Wars. Obviously, Star Wars features at a bunch of events. We just had San Diego Comic-Con. Star Wars was doing stuff over there, and Star Wars is pretty much everywhere now, and it has been for a long time. But Celebration is the place where everything is just Star Wars and a little bit of other Lucasfilm properties, but I would say it's like 95% Star Wars.
It's really funny because my journey in Star Wars Celebration. So I
Mm.
was sort of a Star Wars fan as a child and as a teenager, and then I sort of not that I wasn't a fan, but I just sort of, it wasn't on the radar. Star Wars wasn't on the radar, like
Yeah.
probably from after Revenge of the Sith, until till that Force Awakens trailer, probably, to be honest.
Yeah,
Um,
that was a weird time.
and then back in, and then I sort of dived into the world of YouTube, and then everyone's talking about this Star Wars celebration thing coming up, which was in London for that year.
Oh
So
yes.
this was after the Force Awakens came out. So this was in the run up to Rogue One. And then my first celebration was that one in London, which would have been 2016, I believe.
Yes.
And then after that, I just obviously they announced the next one being in Orlando, and I just had to buy tickets for it as soon as it became. I solo traveled to Florida,
Oh great.
just because of how awesome that first celebration was. And then I did do Chicago, and then I've just done London again. So that's 4 celebrations for me.
Oh, that's great.
So far, but that's sort of my journey. But it is infectious. I think once you've done one, like you do feel a need to do more of them.
Mm-hmm.
I think money aside, I would have done all of them in between that time. But obviously, sometimes if they're in exotic locations, you have to look at how much that's going to be to travel to.
Totally.
But yeah, I think let's start off about the beginning of Star Wars Celebration, I suppose, which has a very interesting origin. Obviously, Star Wars was back, the prequel trilogy was coming, and
Yes.
the first event. And I don't know if you want to just give us a run through of the initial concept, where it was, and how crazy it was.
Definitely. Celebration 1 is kind of my research specialty. It's the thing that I have been looking into the most over the past couple of years. And it was very interesting. Before I would be remiss to not mention what is colloquially called Celebration Zero. It wasn't, because Celebration didn't exist yet, but Starlog held a 10th anniversary event in 1987 that some people call Celebration Zero because it was the closest thing before 1999. But George was there. It was actually pretty insane. Gene Roddenberry was also there. It's like the only time they are recorded meeting in the same room. There's a photo that was taken of them shaking hands. I have chills when I talk about it. But anyway, and that's on YouTube, by the way. But so anyway, that's Celebration Zero. But then, as you said, the prequels were coming, and Lucasfilm wanted to hold some kind of event to keep the hype going. It was mostly through the fan club, which was really big and growing at the time, as the merchandise was big and growing. And Star Wars Insider, a few years earlier, had a redesign, and it was just kind of all part of that, like post special editions leading up to the new Star Wars. Also, the birth of the internet, all those things were like combining, and they wanted to have a Star Wars convention. And it was pretty much spearheaded by Dan Madsen, who was the head of Fantastic Media. He was the founder of Star Wars Insider, and he ran the fan club at the time. And they were located in Denver. The fan club was, and so because of them being in Denver, the easiest place for them to have this convention was in Denver. So that's where they had it, and they kind of started everything a little bit later than you usually would for a convention of this size, even though compared to now it was not really that big, but at the time it was pretty big. So it was like too late to book an official convention center, so they ended up having it at a air and space museum called Wings Over the Rockies. And it's like a huge airplane hangar or several airplane hangars. There's like, at least at the time, there were like huge planes outside, and I think there's planes inside, and it's also majority outdoors. So there were tents that they put up to have the different stages. For the stages, kind of using it loosely, it was a tent with there was a stage fixture, and like folding chairs and stuff. But it ended up raining so much, and I don't like, I think the rain is legendary, but I don't know if people realize it was like historic on Denver's level. Like, it was like a huge percentage of the year's rain for that area in like 2 days. And it definitely made it legendary for a ton of reasons. But yeah, so it kind of is just this like mythical event that happened. And then after Celebration 1, they went to 2 and 3, which were both in Indiana, that were attached to the prequels. And then after that, it was kind of like a little bit uncertain what they were going to do, but they kept having them. They went international, and here we are today. And it's like, it's so, the magnitude is like times a million of that little airfield where they had the first one in Denver.
How do you feel about the transitions? Obviously, Celebration One was very much a sort of a build up to the Phantom Menace, and I believe the next two were sort of again build ups to Episode 2 and then Episode 3. Obviously,
Yes.
for all intents and purposes, I suppose everybody thought Star Wars would then be finished at that point, certainly from a movie point of view, anyway, which it was for a little bit. And sort of, how did Celebration change with with the times and sort of not having new product? I suppose there was animated projects coming that they could focus on.
Yes, definitely. They did do that. But I will say that first Celebration in Denver, they didn't have autographs and photo ops like they do now. That didn't come around until Celebration 2 in 2002. So the first one was very much just Phantom Menace, Phantom Menace, Phantom Menace. And then also John Morton, who plays Dak, was there. But he was the only not Phantom Menace thing that was on the bill. Everything else was very Phantom Menace focused. They had the creatives like Terrell Whitlatch, Doug Chang, Ian McCaig, and Rick McCallum, obviously. And then most of the actors were, oh, no, except for Dak, were all from the Phantom Menace. But then slowly, as they got to the second one in 2002, it was very Attack of the Clones focused, but it spread out a little more. I think because it was indoors, it was a larger space. They were able to have uh, more stuff, and then the panels like kind of expanded to be about more than just Attack of the Clones. There still wasn't really fan panels yet, save for the collecting track. But the collecting track, I mean, that's a whole nother story. And then when it got to Celebration 3, it was pretty much the same thing. It was very Revenge of the Sith heavy, but again, it was continuing to expand because of the autograph hall. They were able to have a ton of Star Wars stars from the original trilogy, and that just kind of kept going and kept going and kept going over the years. And then there was always something that they could promote that was tied to a celebration. Like in some way, there was a project that they could talk about, whether, like you said, it was animation or the Clone Wars movie or even Gendy Clone Wars, like that kind of thing. It did get a little bit like there was no movie, so what are we gonna do? A little bit at it sometimes, and you can kind of see it in the badge art and the key art and the merchandise when it's kind of changing. But they also celebrated a lot of anniversaries and things like that. And yeah, cosplay really grew over that time as well, obviously. So that became a huge part of it. And then I'm still trying to nail down exactly when like fan panels started being a thing, but it didn't come around until I think more recently than we realize. I don't want to say for sure without um, checking, but beyond the collecting track, there was mostly costuming panels talking about 501st Rebel Legion, et cetera, et cetera. And then it just continued to grow. And now it's just kind of like this massive thing where there's like 10 million different options, and then bringing in Indiana Jones and bringing in. So yeah, it's just really slowly expanded.
Yeah, because I think as of right now, we have sort of the main event panels, which are sort of,
Mm-hmm.
you'll have your new shows, your new TV, your new movies. You'll have sort of ones like your new game premieres, publishing panel from like official publishing. Then you'll have sort of a live podcast stage where you've got Star Wars podcasters sort of podcasting all day throughout
Mm-hmm.
every day of the event. Some of the fan panels where deep diving into sort of things they love about Star Wars, um, which is awesome. The
Mm-hmm.
Celebration store, which is something
Yeah.
something in itself, entirely. let's talk about that. I suppose the Celebration store and how that's changed through the ages, and
Oh my
obviously there's a lot of
gosh.
exclusive merch, which is absolutely wonderful. And we all want to buy it, but sometimes it's
Yes.
not as easy as that.
Very true. That's one of my favorite things to look into is the exclusives and the store itself. I'll never forget the day I was like deep in somebody's either I was either in somebody's Flickr or like on the Wayback Machine or just digging and digging, trying to find as many photos as possible. And I found a picture of the Celebration 2 like grid wall that they hung all the merchandise that was available on. Oh my god, I like freaked out because you could really clearly see everything. And I'm very thankful to websites like the Star Wars Collectors Archive where collectors like Duncan Jenkins have really recorded a lot of Celebration merch. And rebelscum.com as well has really great collections of photos of the merch from those older times. But yeah, starting at Celebration 1, I mean, there was not much available in that store. And again, I think using the word store at that point is loose, you know. But there was a t-shirt, there were two jackets, there was a poster, and then the poster image was that was what was on the t-shirt, and then it was a magnet. I believe there was a pin, like a golden pin that's had the logo, and a hat, and that might be it. I'm probably forgetting something and I'll beat myself up later. But yeah, it was like less than 10 things. And then those items sold in Insider, in the Jawa Trader, for some of them for several years, which is really interesting. I'm going to write an article about that eventually. I've been thinking about writing an article about that because of the fact that so much of that merch sold in Insider in Jawa Trader, the only exclusive item from Celebration 1 was the little yellow Duplo block that had the Star Wars logo on it that Lego was handing out. I think that might be the only thing you could get only at Celebration, which is just so interesting.
That is
Um,
wild.
yeah, and then as it got to even just in 2 and 3, well, 2 and 3 were specific because they had an exclusive figure in the merch store. So Celebration 2 had the Jorg Sackle figure, which was George Lucas as an X-Wing pilot. And then Celebration 3, it was a Vader that had James Earl Jones's voice, and he says in it like welcome to Star Wars Celebration. It's so good. So those were the big gets for those two. But even just starting in 2 and 3, the different brands who were vendors on the exhibit floor started having their own exclusives, and that gets into a whole world where like it might be too much information to even comprehend because eventually like every vendor had an exclusive, you know, and it's like that now, you know. Her Universe has exclusive clothes that they have, or the Hot Toys or Sideshow and all those people have exclusives for Celebration, so that became a huge part of it. And then the store, I think by Celebration 3 the store was really kicking it up, and then by 4 it was kind of like a free for all. There was just so many options of things. I forget if I think it might be at 5 where they had a Lando disguise kit and it was just like a fake mustache.
Wow.
And they also had, this might have been at 6. Don't quote me. No one quote me. I'll find out for you if you want to know which one exactly. But one of them, there was a Lando cologne and it had a little cape. Like the bottle of cologne had a cape. So anyway, it's been absurd for a while, is what I'm saying. But one of my favorite facts about the Celebration store from back in the day was in 2007 at Celebration 4 in LA. The store was actually open 24 hours a day. So it opened when Celebration started and it closed when it ended, and it was
Wow.
just open the entire weekend. And I believe what it was you had to book like a time window when you would go. I'm looking to look into that a little further, but that fact always blows my mind, and honestly I think they should bring that back.
Yeah, 'cause I think some of I mean, I love the celebration store and I love the things that are in there, but one of the big worst things is queuing to get in, and then
It's
once you're in,
rough.
you're sort of on the clock because you've got other things you want to be doing. But if it was open 24/7, I suppose it would give you more
I have
options
to
to get in there.
I have to read some like old message boards and stuff to see how it like actually went, but they did do that, which is crazy.
I think for me, as long as they've got enough stock to sort of stock it for all that time,
Yes,
and
agreed.
they've got enough staff where they're not overworking people, then absolutely, it's a great idea.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, if they can make it work in a functional way. But I actually have some personal experience with the store because in Chicago in 2019, that was my first celebration, and I kind of decided that I wanted to pull the trigger and go a little bit late, like at a point where I think tickets were sold out except maybe for like one day. And I didn't know a soul in the Star Wars community at that point. I was like totally going to go by myself, but the only way that I could get in was to apply to work at Celebration, and they placed me in the store. So I worked in the store for like 4 of the days, and then on the last day, I just walked around. But yeah, it's insane. I mean, I worked retail for most of my life, so I'm used to retail madness, but it was basically like Christmas Eve afternoon all the time.
Yeah.
It was nuts. It was really crazy.
Was there an issue with the tills and sort of power at Celebration Chicago?
Yes.
I remember I purchased a lot of things on my first
Mm.
visit to the store, and then like because I'm outside the UK, I sort of have on a different card, so I paid for it and it pinged up on my phone, and like the value was like a lot less than it should have been. Like I'd been
Oh.
undercharged a lot, but everything got scanned through. But obviously something had gone wrong where what I didn't tell anyone, but like I did make a point and say, well, I'll go back to the store and buy the things I wasn't going to get because I've saved some money here, so I'll reinvest it back in the store. But
Right.
but it was so that was a nice surprise. But like I wouldn't know if that was happening to many people.
I don't know if that happened, but I do know that first day something was not right with the system. And it got really bad for a while. Yeah. Yeah, it was rough.
And then what was it like, sort of? So from being sort of in that really hectic, Christmas style retail environment to sort of then having the day to yourself on the last day, sort of how was that?
Oh, it was great. I mean, it was life changing. That whole weekend was really, really life changing. But because I'll never forget being on the show floor. I was at the live stage during the Rise of Skywalker panel. Um, I was able to, because I wasn't going into work until a little later, so I was able to get there for it, and then I had to rush to the store to work, and I was like sobbing, and it was, yeah. But that experience had left me so like like coked out, like high on life, you know. And then I mean, by the fourth day, I was definitely exhausted. I remember I asked them if I could go home, like to I could leave early, and I honestly didn't even walk around. I just went back to the hotel because I felt like I was gonna die. Like my feet were falling off. I was like exhausted. But then by the time I got to that last day and I could just kind of wander, it was just so wonderful. I just didn't really I feel like I didn't know anything could be like that. I was just like I was so overcome, and like I wanted to see everything, but at the same time like I would just go to whatever panel I saw like opening up and just like sit for a while, and like just I just was like totally overwhelmed by how wonderful it was, and all I could think was just like I want to be in this community, like I want to be at the next one and have friends that I know, and like I just wanted to be a part of that world so much. As soon as I like started to absorb it, I was so like blissed out the whole that whole time. It was just, yeah, it was wonderful.
Do you have a favorite type of panel? Like I suppose we have sort of the
Mm.
cast type panels where they're talking about sort of the casting directors and writers talking about what's next, or you have sort of special effects panels where we have creature effects. They're talking about concept art and visual effects, creature effects.
Yes.
We have the collector track, as you've already mentioned. We have some of the smaller scale, more fan-led discussions. Sort of, is there a favorite, or are you here for all of it?
Definitely here for all of it. But honestly, I think my the ones that impact me the most are probably the fan ones, or the ones that are just like a really specific deep dive, because obviously I'm a research freak, so I'm a deep dive freak. But especially David Collins, who works in sound at Lucasfilm and Skywalker Sound, and he does a bunch of voice work as well. But he has the podcast, The Soundtrack Show, and he does panels occasionally where he breaks down like Star Wars music. And the one that was in Anaheim was like so amazing. And that kind of thing I love, like something that teaches you something new that you didn't know before, or something that's going to make you go like, whoa. But I also love going to see the podcasts because they're usually talking about what is happening that weekend. So it's kind of like a really fun the ones I've gone to, it always feels like you're just kind of decompressing and like trying to consume and process everything that's happening because so much happens and you can't see it all, obviously. So like you're over here and this one thing is happening, but then on the publishing panel, which you are not even remotely close to, they're announcing like a bunch of other stuff. So sometimes it's nice to go to a podcast panel because they're breaking it all down and talking about it, which is, I do really, they call it the hyper, don't they call it hyperspace or hyper news? They call it something different now. Hydro,
I think
hollow,
it's
hollow news, hollow net. There you go.
HoloNet News Stage, I think, is
It
what
took
it's
me a
now
minute to
called.
get there. Yeah,
Yeah.
the HoloNet news stage is what the podcast stage is known as now. And yeah, so sometimes it's nice to go to one of those and just kind of like process everything that's been happening over the weekend. But yeah, I don't really have a favorite. I'll go to anything. I just love the way that people prepare for their panels and like the topics, and like I said, the collecting track and the stuff that they do on that stage is just absolutely fantastic. So I feel like you can't miss like any panel that you go to. There's gonna be something in it that's like cool.
Yeah, I
Like
mean,
no matter what.
definitely. I remember in Chicago, I think it was the Resistance panel,
Hmm.
season 2, and like everyone was there. Donald Faison, everyone. It was like, and it was a great panel. Lots of energy, cool poster, and like, I know that series wasn't necessarily well received, but the panel was absolutely awesome. And it
That's so
really sort of
great.
got me sort of hooked and ready for it. The podcast one's a strange one because I remember, I think my first podcast ones would have been in Chicago.
Hmm.
Um, I remember because I got tickets to the episode 9 panel,
Oh.
but then obviously I listened to Sky Talkers podcast, obviously, and they were on the same time, so I had to like a dilemma. So obviously I chose episode 9 over those guys, which wasn't necessarily an easy decision, but I was able to watch them live in London, which was good. Just last year, 2 years ago now, maybe how long ago that was.
I know,
Um,
right?
yeah, and then since then, I've seen some really, again, like the Force cast in Chicago. I was able to watch that with I think at the time it was um, Ryan was hosting that with Brad and Dan, and then obviously this time around also got to experience Talk to Me 94, which was really cool, live as well. And again, I think that's just something like, if you're listening to these podcasts and sort of and interacting with these people sort of on social media and stuff, and then you get to sort of go and witness them live and sort of engage with them that way,
Yeah,
which is really cool. Which is something you wouldn't get anywhere else, I don't think. Like another type of convention, you wouldn't get that.
totally.
Is there a location that you think, what's been the greatest location in Celebration history, and what's been sort of not the worst, but one of the most questionable, shall we say?
Oh gosh. Well, I can't speak, I will not say factually because I didn't experience them all. So I will go based on what I have heard other people say. Um, I have heard people talk really positively about Chicago, um, as a location, and in pretty much every way. I don't know. Everybody loves Chicago, but I do hear people talk positively about the Chicago location. I really liked Anaheim as a location. I feel like a lot of people also like that as a location. Um, Also, I mean, maybe it's just because I'm so focused on the first three celebrations, but I do also hear a lot of good stuff about Indianapolis. I don't know if it would translate to the current size of celebration, but I think at that time it was a good size for what was going on at that time. It is definitely larger at this point, but I do hear good things about that location too. I feel like Anaheim is a favorite. And like I said, Chicago I hear good stuff about. I don't know that I hear negative stuff and read negative stuff about all of them because that's just life, I guess. But I mean, I think it's hard to say that this is the worst because it's so important. But I do think that the Wings over the Rockies Air and Space Museum was probably the worst location. But I will say, if it had been a beautiful sunny weekend, that would not be true. So, it's hard to say, and I don't want to say factually because I haven't been to all of them. But those are the ones that I hear the best things about.
And the next one is in LA, is that correct? Ready for the
Yes.
50th anniversary of Star Wars?
Yes, which is crazy.
Do you think there's going to be a time where it'll move somewhere like completely new, like maybe like a Dubai or a Saudi Arabia? You know, those
Oh
guys are
my
putting on a lot
gosh.
of different events now and getting into bed with sort of Formula One, boxing, mixed martial arts, pop acts.
Yeah.
You know, we know Disney Parks going to be building a Dubai. It's yeah, Dubai or Qatar Park, I believe, coming
I
soon.
believe
So
so,
do you
yeah.
think there's room for that type of market?
I don't know. It's so dependent on like so many different factors. Um I mean, I wouldn't rule it out, but it's really hard to say. I was fully expecting that the next one was going to be in Orlando. So I was pretty surprised by LA, although it does make sense because the odds are they're trying to tie it to the Lucas Museum a little bit. Um but it did surprise me. And I don't really have any like preconceived notions about that. I've never been. The only time I've been to California, well, more or less, was for Anaheim in 2022. So I don't really know what to expect, but it will be it will be something else, that's for sure.
Obviously George Lucas is just off the back of his first ever appearance at Hall H at San Diego Comic Con
I
last
can't
week.
believe that. I still
It,
just can't believe he was there. It's a kind of a really big deal. It's
it's a
wild.
huge deal, huge. I think it's a
Yeah,
good thing because as he gets older, I think it's important to get a chance to hear him speak more now
totally.
because sadly Father Time will come at some point.
Yeah,
So I think we need to take advantage of these minds while we have them to sort
I
of
agree.
to talk to them and engage with them and learn and document what they've got to say. I think it's very important. So I'm glad he got that chance to have his voice.
Me
Do you
too.
think that
And
bodes well for
yeah.
him having a big segment at Star Wars Celebration?
I don't know. I feel like I also I didn't watch the panel in full. I just saw clips of it, but I think I read that he didn't like talk about Star Wars at all, which is totally fine because it wasn't about that. It was about the museum, and I think like who better to talk about the museum than him, obviously. Um, so I don't know. I think because he came for 2017 for that big anniversary for the 40th, I feel like that is um a good sign that he could at least do like big one first moment opening day type appearance at the least. I would be surprised if he didn't. If he's well enough and, doing stuff, I feel like the odds are he would at least come out and just, give a wave and say like two sentences and then leave or whatever. I don't expect him to do a lot. I don't think he's going to be doing like Q&As or anything like that, but I could see him at least coming for like a first big moment and, that kind of thing. But yeah, I don't know. I think they've got to just invite everybody. I mean, I have a lot of thoughts about what they should do. I don't know how many of them are realistic, but I think they should invite everybody who has ever touched Star Wars since 1976 when they started filming until that day. Just put it out. Put it out to everybody, and if you come, you come. If you don't, you don't. But I think it's got to be everybody who's ever touched Star Wars in any way should be invited. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. And again, it might be one of the last chances to get these people together. Especially if
Yeah.
somebody worked on the original Star Wars and it was 50 years ago, if they were working out in their 20s, then that makes them 70 at least. Like, do
Mhm.
you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like, it's important to spend this time now and give people their flowers while they can accept them, I suppose. Is there I know there's been times when obviously we'll have like guest panel hosts, sometimes celebrities. Is there
Mm.
is there any who have been your favourite, and is there anybody who you would love to have do them in the future?
I know that Jon Stewart did one with George, I think. I forget, or was that at Comic Con? I always confuse that. But I think overall, like Colbert did the one for Rise of Skywalker. I think overall, I just want it to be somebody who loves Star Wars and is like a Star Wars freak, because then they'll just be as excited as we are. Um, so that's kind of my only requirement. Just someone who like will be as out of their minds excited as us, because it just adds to the energy.
No, it
But
certainly does.
there's so many good hosts and panelists and the people who host on all the different stages throughout the weekends, and everybody from the live show, the Star Wars live show on the live show stage. I mean, everybody's great. But yeah, anybody that's just like psyched. If you're psyched, then I'm psyched.
And sort of location wise, I suppose we're in the convention center era currently. I suppose could
Hmm.
you see it going to sort of any different type of arena, like maybe like do we go to some sort of like giant sports stadium where there's conference rooms inside it, and you could also sort of
Whoa.
do the pitch out to have sort of big panels, or even I'm not quite sure of the size of the Lucas Museum of Narrative Art, but does that have conference space and could something be in there one day?
I don't know. I feel like it probably doesn't have quite that much, but I feel like the a cool thing would be to maybe not just have a convention center, but also like other venues nearby, like even if they're not gigantic, um, just to have like different places, like whether it's a Disney park or whatever, like just having different like satellite locations could be kind of cool, within reason, I guess. Um but yeah, I don't know, I think the convention center format works so well because there are those smaller rooms for the smaller panels. um but yeah, I think if anything, just more just more of everything.
Something else that's awesome about celebration is obviously the people you meet and interact with, sort of in the day to day.
Yes.
So I remember like my first celebration, I was in the queue to get into the venue, Celebration
Hmm.
London in 2016. My first celebration, obviously not quite sure what to expect. Got speaking to somebody in the queues next to me who I speak to now, as a friend, and that was Savannah Kiefer, obviously the host of the Dr. Eva show.
The
Um,
best.
and then like that led obviously when I went to Orlando, obviously I had someone who I knew who was there. Obviously met Brian Barnes through Savannah, and then
Yeah.
more people and so on, and it sort of spirals year on year as you meet with these people, which is fantastic, and you acquire more friends. Something that people do quite a lot is swag. I don't know if you want to
Yes.
define swag for the listeners, and then maybe tell us why it's so unique and important to Star Wars celebration culture now.
Absolutely. And I will say, just to like mirror what you just said, I think that overall, if we're talking about the number one best thing about celebration, it's the people that you get to see, that you get to meet, that you get to hang out with. Like you said, you meet people online, you meet people in a panel, you meet them everywhere. And that's by far and away the best and most crucial part of celebration. But swag is defined as stuff we all get, I believe is what it stands for, swag. And that is just the idea of bringing something that you are interested in freely giving to whoever you meet. And then often that person will have something that they're freely giving out. So you get something back, but it's given with the intention of not getting anything in return. It's just like the act of just like sharing things. So when I went to Chicago my first time, I had heard that people did swag, but I didn't know how to make stickers and patches and stuff like that at that time. So I made a little zine, and that became my fanzine, and et cetera, et cetera. But I made a little zine and I just passed it out, and I did get stuff from people, which was like so shocking. And now people do like friendship bracelets, and the swag level in Japan, I wasn't there, but just from what I heard from friends and what I saw online, the level of swag was out of this world in Japan. I think it hit a peak, and I think it's only going to continue to go up. It's amazing the stuff that people create, and it's just like this way to connect with people is just to give them a little trinket, and then you get a little trinket, and it can be end up being the memory of your meeting. And it's just the coolest thing. And the one of the best things about Star Wars fans and our fan community is how creative everyone is, and creative in their own ways. So I was lucky that some friends who were in Japan sent me some swag that they had gotten, and the things that people design, it's like it's just amazing. And I think that I can't recommend enough to make something to bring with you to the next celebration, because it is just such a thrill to be able to connect with people that way and to share your fandom and what you love um, with others, and then also maybe possibly receive something from them that is their fandom. It's like the essence of the community in that, and it's just the coolest thing. And there is a group, the Swag Crew, and they're on Facebook and Instagram. They have a website, and they kind of are trying to catalog the swag from the past good amount of celebrations. And so they have like a whole catalog, like a catalog recording of all the things that people have passed out. It's just so cool. It's so cool. And then people will have meetups where they're trading swag, uh and you can do anything. Like you can make a little trading card, you can make a zine, you can people in Japan were doing a lot of that stamping, which was just incredible to see. And but now people have patches, and then there's big puzzle patches where it's the different pieces of the patches, and oh my gosh, I just, yeah, can't recommend it enough. My hope for 2027 is that everybody brings a little something so everybody can feel that joy, you know because it's just delightful.
Yeah, no, that'd be awesome. I think my experience with swag is that like people would like if you're waiting in the queue, you'd strike up a
Yeah.
conversation and like you trade some swag, and then like wherever you are, like when you least expect it, you'll have a conversation and you'll get something. I think which is really cool. I think we did swag for London, um,
Oh,
like the
cool.
Star Wars show. It was like collectible bookmarks. There was like four different ones.
Oh, cool.
That was sort of handed out along with the celebration sticker, Star Wars celebration sticker. But
Oh, that's great.
easy enough to make up really, and then just to trade that around was like a really really cool experience, definitely. And then the look on someone's face when maybe they weren't, if it was their first celebration and they weren't necessarily
Yes.
like used to the idea of swag, and then when they get it, they'd almost light up. So it was like really cool, like
Exactly.
really cool moments like that. Um, I suppose focusing on official swag from the convention itself. Obviously, a
Mhm.
lot of these panels, if you go to the main panels, they'll give you a voucher. and you can redeem it for like a poster or a T-shirt or a hat or a pin badge or whatever it is they're giving away. Is there
Yes.
anything in particular that's been sort of given out officially that you think is the best?
I mean, the posters are very cool. I have a couple of those, not that many, but sometimes I also feel like it can be kind of a hassle to go get it, or you're like afraid to go get it because is the line going to be long, and then it's like, well, I'll go get it later, but then what if there's none left? And so I don't really I don't think about it that much, but some of the posters have been really cool. That one, I think it was in Japan, the Lucasfilm animation one where it was like all the characters. Oh my god, that was really good. Um but yeah, I mean, posters are mostly what I've seen. And and they are a really good keepsake.
Yeah, I've got a few posters that are still never framed. I'm still thought I want to get them framed one day and put up. One of my favorite
Yeah.
items was I'm a sucker for like a T-shirt, and it was in Chicago. So I did not go to the panel, but it was the Disney theme parks panel. It was obviously in the build up at Galaxy's Edge
Yes.
opening, and they had it was the red T-shirt with Coca-Cola written in Arabic on the front. With
Yes, I
Star
think I
searching
got
through.
that too, but I didn't go to the panel either, but I got it somehow. So they must have had a ton of extras or something.
So they had some left, and I was in the hotel lobby having a few drinks with some friends, and then sort of some staff came in and were like, "Oh, we're getting rid of this stuff. Is anything you want to trade?" And I traded like a pin badge for this T-shirt,
Oh, nice.
which is really cool.
Yeah.
And I'll still wear that T-shirt today. But it's one of my favorites. Um, I've also got some cool BD1 pin badges that were from the Jedi Fallen Order like launch premiere
Oh, that's
from
nice.
Chicago as well. So
Oh yeah, and I remember for episode 9, didn't they give a hat?
yes, I've got that hat somewhere.
Nice.
A green. It's a bit too. It fits me, but I'd prefer it to be a little bit bigger. But it fits okay. Um, yeah, I just think it's wild that like there's just so much at every corner, isn't there?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, it's I think it was in the opening ceremonies in 2002 that Steve Sansweet said you're going to have to clone yourself to be able to see it all. And it's true, you just can't see everything. So you just have to kind of like do your best and pick your pick your mission and just kind of know that, even if you don't get into any of the big panels, or even if you only get in an overflow room, or even if you don't get the thing at the store, it's like you're still going to have fun. You're still going to have a really good time. Because it's just fun. It's just good.
It certainly is. I think how close you get to like these creatives and the stars of Star Wars as well. I think obviously you can pay to have autographs and photos taken, which is
Of
one way
course.
to get close to them. But if you're just in the surrounding area, like, you'll bump into these guys in hotel lobbies and restaurants,
Yeah.
and you'll get to see them and interact with them. I think we bumped into D. Bradley Baker
That's great.
in a hotel lobby, which was really cool. Um, Again, like people like Neil Scullin, who you can bump into, who's like a legend.
Hmm.
I remember Celebration in London, the first one, so it was a bit more of a low key event. I think on the floor it was calmer, and like I
Hmm. Yeah.
bumped into Dave Filoni on the floor. That wouldn't after that. Obviously, he doesn't walk the floor now. Right, we would need security to get mobbed. But like bumping into Dave Filoni, got a picture with Dave Filoni on the phone, a conversation with him, and then the same with Doug Chang. Um,
Wow.
which again, I just think wouldn't happen now because of how Celebration's grown since that point. Um,
Definitely less often. Yeah.
um, but just again, it's just awesome moments where like you've bumped into people or you've seen them, which is just really, really cool.
Mhm.
As sort of Star Wars goes into the future, do
Hmm.
you see it sort of keeping the same format as it does now?
That's a good question. I think that 2027 will be a sign of if they're looking to switch it up or if they're going to keep it the same. Um, I think they will to some extent. The only thing I hope is that they just continue the fan involvement um and continue to like highlight and celebrate that, because no pun intended, celebrate that, because it is what makes it so unique and so great, you know? Um, I think they'll still do the one big panel that everybody knows is the big panel. Although I would argue in Japan that there were multiple were that were fighting for the title of quote unquote big panel. I do think they'll continue that. I'm an advocate for it's kind of an old school practice for celebrations, but they used to do the bigger panels multiple times. Um, and I think they should bring that back. Like do one thing in each one that's different so everybody who went to the each one can say they saw something that the other people maybe didn't, but I think they should start doing them more than once. Like do it Saturday and Sunday or do it twice on Saturday or do, you know, something like that. So um that's my hot take of recent cuz when I look at like the schedules from the old ones, which I do, and I have most of them, which is embarrassing, but whatever. They used to do that a lot. Like they would do the same panels and show the same exclusive clips like multiple times, and I think that's interesting. And but yeah, I think they'll continue to have those big panels, and also I hope they keep including behind the scenes and the behind the scenes creatives and even boost that up a little more, you know. Um, but yeah, I mean, the sky's the limit, you know. There's so many things they could do. So, yeah, it's kind of a it's kind of a mystery. I have ideas, of course, um but I think for the most part they'll keep it similar to how it is now, I think. Hopefully, well, who knows? I don't know.
Do you think maybe as obviously, I think celebrations now every 2 years, I think sort of officially could change.
More or
And
less,
obviously,
yeah.
and then we also have obviously the D20 Disney's Expo D23 is also every 2 years, I believe. Um,
Right.
do you think they'll ever sort of combine those things, or think they'll keep them separate?
No, I think they'll keep it Star Wars only at Celebration because if you can like not to be crass or in, you know, blunt about it, but if you could profit off of a Celebration and a D23, why wouldn't you do both?
Yeah,
You know?
no,
So,
definitely,
but I think they'll definitely keep doing Star Wars stuff at D23 as well. Um, that would make sense. And that kind of every other year format, if it does stay that way, more or less, will only help them in that regard, you know?
definitely. I think with big panels and small panels, I think you've hit the nail on the head where like any panel can be sort of can evolve and depend on what the show. Because I remember at Celebration London last time out, we went to the sort of like a publishing panel on the High Republic, but it
Hmm.
was where the sort of announced Acolyte and showed us the first footage.
Oh, yeah.
And
See, that's interesting.
it was in that panel, and it was like wild. I couldn't believe it.
Right.
Um, yeah,
That's an interesting concept. Yeah. Like kind of blending blending things together. I I'm into that. Yeah.
definitely. Is there anything about Star Wars Celebration that sort of we haven't discussed that you want to deep dive into?
I don't think so. I I just love it. There's definitely like a lot of good like weird stuff about Celebration too, but in the same way that like there's a lot of good weird stuff about Star Wars. Um like obviously we would be remiss not to mention the running of the hoods and now the running of the prisoners as well. Um those are two like staples that really can't be overlooked or missed because that's just another thing that I think sets it apart and makes it so so unique to us is just the idea that a bunch like 100 people maybe more will dress up like a guy who was on screen for 3 seconds and run throughout the whole convention floor yelling about ice cream like that's just the best. It's just the best thing ever.
No, it certainly is. For those who don't, also Will Row Hood is obviously a character on Cloud City Bespin.
Yes.
Then during the Empire's occupation and Lando Calrissian obviously gives the message to evacuate the city.
Yes.
One Will Road is seen running with a 80s ice cream machine, basically, which is, of course, in Star Wars universe, I think it's called a katana, is that right? And it stores money and
Camtano, yeah.
it's thought which you can buy in Disney parks, I believe now.
I think so, which is
Yeah,
insane.
real working ones. Obviously, it got shown more like in The Mandalorian, which is cool. But yeah, like such an obscure character, an obscure moment for like split second, obviously is a big part of this fandom now. And then in sort of that's evolved to where we also have
Hmm.
the running of the prisoners from, is it Arcana 5? I get mixed up the numbers.
Narkina, yeah.
That's the one. And that'll evolve again. It'll be something different in the future, I'd imagine.
It's great.
Um,
I think it's that like that vibe of like participation is so strong at celebration. Like it's just something you like want to be a part of it, you know, and it's just great. Like the first time this is embarrassing, but like I missed the running of the hoods at Chicago and in Anaheim. I missed that too. It was like the worst thing that ever happened to me because I wanted to see them so bad and I missed it. And then I saw them for the first time in London and I genuinely like wept. I was so happy. It's just
Good.
like even just to see them, I just cried. It was just so good. And my fiance and I always tell this story, but we had met this guy, whoever you are. I don't know who, I don't know what his name was, but he was in an orange jumpsuit and he had a trash can, a little white trash can, and he had a stuffed Grogu in the trash can. And I think the Grogu had a mustache, and he also put a mustache on the trash can, and we were behind him in line for a panel, and I asked him, I was like, "Oh, are you doing the running today?" And he was like, "I was going to, but I don't know where they're going to be." He was like, I'm not part of the group, but I just heard that they were going to do it, and I heard about it, and I was like, I want to do that. So I came, but I'm not sure where they're going to meet up. And I was like, oh man, I wish I knew. I would tell you because I really didn't know. And then so blah blah blah, we went to that panel and then walked away, and later that day the running of the hoods happened and the guy was running with them and he had found them. Oh my god, I have chills. It was like just the best moment, and he saw us and he was like, I found them. Oh my god, that is celebration in a nutshell to me.
It certainly is.
It's the
It certainly
best.
is. Is there a favorite like? Obviously, that could be one of them. A favorite cosplay you've came around across. So I think some of mine is I
Oh,
once bumped
so
into
many.
a like somebody as a full on Gamorrean guard, which was, it looked awesome, and I thought that's what I thought about. That's crazy. And also, I believe there's a couple go around as like, I don't know what the concept is, but it's essentially Admiral
Mm.
Akbar has got a fried chicken shop, and he goes around as like a Kentucky Fried Admiral Akbar, which
Yes.
is really cool as well.
I've saw there were a lot of really good ones in Japan this year that I saw pictures of, but oh my gosh, I feel like I've just seen so many. I'm always so inspired by cosplay. I love when you see a pink shorts guy. It doesn't I feel like it hasn't happened as much since Chicago. I feel like Chicago was peak like pink shorts guy. The boom mic operator
Yeah,
from the desert in the original trilogy. And then what else? I saw a really good Spaceballs group cosplay in London. That was really amazing. And I just love when you see like a big parade of clones or a big parade of Mandos or any like big group of troopers goes by or something. Oh my god, I just always get such a thrill out of that. But people are so creative with the cosplays that they do. I love it. I have a lot of friends that do amazing ones as well, so shout out to them.
I think something else that's so wonderful as well. And we've covered this slightly, but I think when you look at, and I think this is the same in any online space, whether you support a football club or you love a movie or a franchise or
Mm,
whatever it is. I think, online there can be like a lot of negativity and a lot of like fighting and sort of back and forth and
of
arguments
course.
and hate. But I think when you're in this space of Star Wars Celebration, like everybody generally wants to have a great time, wants to engage
Absolutely.
positively, and I've never had a negative experience with a person or seeing a negative experience happen at a Star Wars Celebration. So I like to think that's probably the case for the majority of it.
Hmm.
So I think it's great when, like, I think we've all been there. Like, I work at a workplace where there's 300 people work in my building. How many of them like Star Wars to my level? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't talk about Star Wars much at work because people don't really want to talk about it because they're not into it. So, like, my space is on social media, pardon the pun. But and all the pun that is for the kids out there.
Yeah, right.
But then Star Wars Celebration's a chance to sort of, chances are people are going there to get, like, are going there who from all over the world and all over the country, I suppose. And, you've made those contacts through social media and online, because that's sort of where like-minded people go, and then you get to sort of grow that friendship. I think that's something magical about that, and you can't really
Absolutely.
recreate it, if that makes sense.
No, it's so true. Yeah. And I feel like, no pun intended again, but everybody's really there with the intention of like of celebrating and of just having fun. Like that's so it's just about like what do you like? What are you excited about? Because everything Star Wars is here so you can find it. And yeah, it's it's just great.
I've got a question for you. I'm going to put you on the spot with. So
Ooh.
I want you to think of. So you're allowed one panel host and then three panel guests.
Whoa.
And like, so who are these people going to be and what they're going to talk about for like your dream Star Wars Celebration panel?
Oh my god. Oh my god. Yeah, that's hard. Um oh, well, I could do some manifesting and I could say that my dream panel host would be me and the panelists would be uh Mary Franklin, Dan Madsen, and uh one other person, and we would talk about celebration history. That would be great.
It would be
um
a good deep
yes.
dive.
Thank you. Although I feel like I don't know if that's how I would form that panel because it's too broad. Like maybe I would do just Dan, Scott Chernoff, and Anthony Daniels to talk about Celebration One, which they kind of did in Chicago, but it wasn't with me, so it doesn't count. No, I'm just kidding. It counts, but I would do it again. Anyway, other than that, I would also say the host would be me. And I really just would love to do a panel with Pablo Hidalgo to talk about the hyperspace webcam from the Revenge of the Sith set. Um, Maybe put John Knoll on there too. But I think that topic would be such a good panel just to talk about, just to hear about what went into getting that webcam on the set, hooking it up, what the interactions were like with the fans when they were doing those like little interviews and chats and stuff that they would do, and the way that like the fans speculated about each little photo that came through the webcam, and then maybe show us some like uh previously unpublished webcam photos because so many of them have been lost to the internet and lost to time. So that's one of my dream panels, and I would want to host it because
No, definitely. I would love to know what George's thoughts were on the webcam, and like,
that's so
it obviously had his
funny.
approval, but like, just how much did he know about it, and like what it was putting
Yeah.
out there, I suppose. Because obviously he's
Because
good.
they were also like on the set, the people on the set were like communicating with it. Like they would hold up signs that like said stuff, but they weren't spoiling, but they were like teasing stuff kind of. And I remember reading that John Knoll did like a little stop motion movie using it like one day, and I don't. It's just crazy that that happened,
No, it certainly is. Um,
right?
if somebody hasn't been to a Star Wars Celebration before, why
Mm.
should they go to the next one if they can?
Oof. I mean, it's just the best place to like honor your love of Star Wars. Um, Again, I can't emphasize enough. Even if you don't get into all the big panels, even if you just walk around and like soak it in, and it's just it's just the best place to connect with people who love Star Wars, to see things that are Star Wars, to experience and witness like the creativity of Star Wars fans, and then also to honor your own creativity. And it's just it's just the best place to love Star Wars. So if you really love Star Wars, you're gonna love it. And yeah, I don't think it can be missed.
No, definitely not.
Hmm.
And I suppose to break it down, we've already spoke about it in depth, but sort of what's the three things you love the most about Star Wars Celebration?
Hmm. The For the three, it's like I want to say the history of it, but that's not really a thing about it, but I guess it kind of is. But one of the things that I love the most is just the history that's attached to each one now, and the memories that people have that they share with me all the time. And if you're listening and you have celebration memories, you should email me. But anyway, so I think the memories and the history and the like time capsule-ness of it all is one of the things that I love the most about it. The next thing would be this, I am kind of repeating myself, but the next thing would just be the creativity and seeing what people are able to do to celebrate their love of Star Wars, whether it's a costume or making a really intricate panel about cereal boxes, or uh, the Belgian prop builders that create a life-size, walker or whatever, just all those different things. And then the third favorite thing would just be the people, would just be being with people and meeting people and ranting about stuff and talking about your favorite glup shido and all that kind of thing, and just getting excited about what's going to come next, and uh, talk about what has already happened. And yeah, it's got to be the people would be the number one thing.
100%, I can definitely agree with that. Well, I think we have indeed proved that Star Wars Celebration is indeed Purely BELTA. So thank you very much,
Yes.
Cara, for pleading the case of Star Wars Celebration and getting it over the line in record time. I would say it didn't take much persuasion.
Yeah, you were already biased though. You were already on my side.
I have indeed, yes. Um, it's one of those things where even like like negative things can happen, right? So I think there's a lot of people there. Can be a bit crowded. Can be hot.
Sure.
You're standing around a lot. It's tiring. Convention life is tiring. But
Sure.
the overall joy you get is worth it. Um, it's funny what you said though. I just want to quickly go back to what you were saying about how you said maybe the history of it maybe doesn't really count maybe for other people. But I think it's almost like, although it's not a fixed destination, right? Because it it moves. It's every 2 years roughly, and it moves
Hmm.
destination, and it also evolves. But in that regard, it's almost like a Disney park. Like do you
Hmm.
know what I mean? I mean, don't get us wrong, a Disney park doesn't move, but I mean, it evolves and changes with the times, and things get refurbed or changed or completely removed. New lands get added,
Yeah.
and I think it is sort of that type of thing where we'll be going to Celebration in 10 years' time, and there'll be things that maybe aren't done anymore that we really love, but there'll be new things as well, and then we'll get talking
Right.
about those things with people who maybe it's their first Celebration, like, oh well, I remember Celebration 10 years ago where this happened type of thing. And the
Hmm.
stories do last a lifetime, I think. Like I said, when I met Dave Filoni on the floor and Doug Chang, I still tell that story now as it came up today just because it popped in my head as soon as we started talking about it. Do you know what I mean? You
Yeah.
make those memories every celebration, really. If anyone you go to, you'll have that type of memory, and those last a lifetime, really. Um,
Absolutely. And that's one thing every time I talk to anybody about celebration, they always go to the ones that they've been to and what they remember. And that's the best thing.
it certainly is. So you're definitely going to be at the next Star Wars celebration in Los Angeles.
Oh yeah. I mean, I can't. Yeah, whatever it takes, I'll be there.
When do you think tickets will become available?
Well, if history is um to be believed, yeah. If history is to be believed, it'll probably be spring to summer, May-ish of 26. I think. It's usually about a year before.
Yeah, I
But
think
anything could happen, but I think it'll be definitely in like the first half of next year, most likely.
for me with it being LA, it makes it easier to have a family like a trip there, and then have like a
Yeah, I mean,
and go there for like longer than the convention. So you could do some like holiday beforehand and then holiday afterwards, especially with like you've got Disney parks there, which I enjoy a lot. You've got
sure.
you could travel around. You could see potentially um some of the history of Lucasfilm, the Lucas Museum Narrative Arts will be open by then, things like that. Which are
Totally.
I know they're not like right next to it, but you know they're a lot closer than they are to right now in the UK.
Right.
So
Yeah,
you could,
you could like make the most of that trip and do more than just the 4 days. There's a lot to see. So, yeah.
yeah. And I remember at Celebration Chicago, so we did, me and my wife, she's not a Star Wars fan, to be honest, she'd never
Mhm.
seen Star Wars before she met me. She has now, and I think knows probably more than she'd like to about Star Wars, just being around us. Like, she can name some good facts and out of
Right.
the blue, which she doesn't know how she knows, but I think we did like 8 days in Chicago before the convention. And then after the convention, we flew to Toronto just because it was a quick flight. And then we had 5 days in Toronto before flying back to the UK just because we're here, we may as well take advantage of it.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, that's great.
And I think that's a great way. Anybody who needs to travel to one, I think, look at it that way. Like Japan would have been great. I just didn't have the sort of the things going on in my life where I couldn't make the trip. But I think Japan again, like that
Mhm.
was a perfect opportunity for someone to be like, well, I've always wanted to see Japan. Oh, well, I can do that and the Star Wars celebration in the same breath here. So let's take
Exactly.
advantage
Yeah,
of that.
so many people made like a whole trip out of it for sure.
Um, but yeah, I think that brings an end. Unless there's anything else you want to add.
I don't think so. I mean, I have a blog. It's called the Celebration Database and celebrationdatabase.com. And I haven't been posting much on it. I've been so busy lately, but I have a bunch of article ideas that I'm going to be writing on there soon. But I just pick different topics in celebration history and kind of deep dive on them. And uh, it's really fun. And I'm working right now on an extended version of I made a zine of a historic timeline of Celebration 1. And I've done so much research since then that I'm working on an extended version of that, and it's probably going to be more like a small book at this point. I don't even know. But that's hopefully going to be out later this year, and I have a podcast Into a Larger World where I talk to people, and celebration always comes up every episode because it's me. So
Yeah, I've just listened to your last episode with Sky Talkers. That was a fantastic
they're the
episode.
best. Ugh, it was so great to have them on. And yes, we did talk about celebration, of course.
Where can people get the access to the zine and stuff and all the information for that?
Yeah, everything is the best place to find me is Instagram, Into a Larger World project on Instagram, and then I have everything linked there. Right now, the zine is only available through my Patreon. It's once a quarter at this point. There is one coming out in August, and that's at the subscriber tier or above. And I post a bunch of other stuff on Patreon and my research and blah blah blah, all that stuff. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And the blog is I was looking at the blog today and I was like, you know what? This is pretty good. Like I love this. And now all I want to do is blog and I don't have time and it's very sad, but I will have time soon. So yeah, I recommend if you want some more celebration goodness, check that out.
Well, I think we just need to hear you say that Star Wars Celebration is purely belter.
I'm saying that Star Wars Celebration is purely belta.
So it's
That was
purely
so
and
bad.
belter, like just with like an A on the end, like belter. Purely belter.
Belta.
Yeah, that's how you say it. With attitude, like you mean it.
You have to.
And if you ever come to Newcastle, I will take you for that sesame seed pizza. The DJ
Yes.
special.
I want to try it. Honestly, I'm in.
It's awesome, honestly. It's fantastic. But no, thank you very much, Cara. Absolute pleasure as always talking Star Wars and Star Wars Celebration with yourself. Again, anybody who's on the fence about Star Wars Celebration, wondering is it worth it? Obviously, they are quite big investments in time and in money, but they're absolutely magical events, and they'll change your life, and you'll meet people who you won't meet otherwise, and then they become sort of fixtures in your life going forward. So I definitely recommend it. But this has been Star Wars. It has been a Purely BELTA special, and Cara has told us that Star Wars Celebration is Purely BELTA. Thanks for listening, and remember, always tell that to Kancha Club.